And apologies.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Apologies. We have 14 members present today, and I have apologies from Councillor Bell, Councillor Collins, and Councillor Syme, Councillor McGregor, and Councillor Prentice, Councillor Geddes, and Councillor Thompson are not present but may be along in a moment.
Thank you very much. I think we'd like to send our best wishes to Councillor Collins, hope him a speedy recovery from his recent illness. Would members agree to that? Thank you. Do you have any declarations of interest, Councillor Ferguson?
Thanks, Chair. Just to let the committee know that my daughter actually works in community customer services and may be affected in this, but I've taken advice and I'm able to stay through the proceedings. I'm merely letting everyone know.
Thank you very much. Any other declarations? Happy? We move on to the minute meeting of 9th December. I'm so moved.
Second it.
Very much. Move on to item 4, scrutiny of budget proposals 2015-16 through to 2017-18. And we'll have the report in front of us. Administration Group submitted their full budget to the full Council on 18th of December 2014, and proposals are being scrutinised through the service committees as well as through local area committee meetings. Each committee has the right to scrutinise proposals affecting its service delivery areas, and today's meeting is here to scrutinise those details of the administration's budget for revenue spending, capital investment for community and customer services. Appendix 3 provides members with details of the savings options templates, and there are 6 savings proposals. And in terms of the Council's capital investment strategy, our arrangements have aligned the revenue and capital budget planning. And Appendix 4 provides members with a summary of the proposed 10-year capital investment strategy, and also includes the templates for capital investment that relate to community and customer services, and 2 capital investment areas, that's Kirkcudbright Charter and the Regional Archive and Local Studies. I would go through each template individually and then ask for members' comments. Thank you very much. So we can move on to the report. And go to Appendix 2 and template number 1, which is management staffing reductions and associated savings, and that affects the whole service. Anything you want to add to this, Mr. Haswell?
No, thanks, Chairman. I'm quite happy to take members' questions or comment on any issues raised by members. I've also got my heads of service here. If I can't answer the questions, I'm absolutely sure they will.
Very much. Any questions on that template? Councillor Maitland?
Yes. Could I possibly ask who may be going and what will be the impact on the service, please?
We're very much dependent on volunteers along the road here. We have a number of outstanding applications for voluntary early redundancy, early retirement. We are looking at those. Obviously, it requires to be a business case on each application that's received. That business case is not only dependent on the costs to the superannuation fund or the council, which has got to repay the superannuation fund, but also business continuity and continuing to deliver services. We are looking at those. We will always ensure that where someone is allowed to retire early, we are either able to fulfil the work that they're undertaking or alternatively find a way of finding what we term a bump redundancy, which means you bring somebody else on who you could make redundant or allowed to go. At the moment, I think we've got something like 14, 15 outstanding applications. Obviously, I can't comment on the individual applications, but what I would assure members, and I think gave Councillor Maitland this assurance before, particularly in terms of CLD, we will be looking as part of the ongoing service reviews as to service delivery across Dumfries and Galloway, and making sure that we don't have a situation where a part of Dumfries and Galloway is denuded from service delivery simply because it's the easy option to let someone go. In fact, we've recently been moving staff on a voluntary basis across Dumfries and Galloway, where staff are happier to work somewhere else, where it's equidistant from their own home or something like that. So it's very much a negotiation. We have the trade unions absolutely involved in it. It goes through the pensions panel, and as I say, we ensure that the strain on the council in terms of the superannuation fund does not have an adverse effect going forward. So I'm afraid I can't give Councillor Maitland names today, but what I can do is assure members that we will continue to deliver services across the piece. We are well aware that members do not want any reduction in frontline service delivery.
Okay, any further questions? Happy with that? Can we move on to the, oh, sorry, Councillor Dryborough.
Chair, it's just a question on whether you can give names anyway, because I mean, I think you can give posts, but it'd be quite unusual to give names because it's a compromise settlement agreement between the individual and the employer. So that would, I don't think you'd be able to give names.
Councillor Driver is absolutely right, sir. Maybe I was a bit loose in my terminology. I meant posts.
Okay, members happy with that? Move on to the next template, which is the leisure facilities ABB. Anything to add to that, Mr. Haswell?
No, Chairman, I'm hoping it's straightforward. It's an ongoing relationship which the Council has with Queen of the South in relation to the provision of services. We already have changing accommodation at Palmerston Park. We have got the all-weather pitch, and this would be an extension of that. What we will do is we'll review the service level agreement to make sure that the Council get value for money.
Councillor Martin.
They just had a few representations for Dumfries Hockey Club considering this, and it's just like an assurance that when the service level agreement is agreed to, that the hockey will be accommodated as the others it's now.
Mr. Graveson.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, happy to provide Councillor Martin with those assurances. Whilst Queen of the South will be the lead partner club, there will be a management committee established with representation from all of the user groups that currently use the facility, and the service level agreement will guarantee them the access at the same cost that they currently enjoy. So that robust service level agreement will give us those assurances, Chair.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Mr. Thompson.
Thanks, Chair. It's just on the back of that, and I welcome that reassurance that the Hockey Club will be involved in the management structure. I think the other question adding on to that is that the actual commitment to the provision of a league level hockey pitch will be a commitment in terms of actually the infrastructure of that site.
Yeah, our current sports pitch and leisure and sports strategy requires us to provide a competition level hockey facility within the region, and that will continue to be our commitment at that site, unless there's an opportunity to enhance and develop somewhere else. That provision requires to stay at King George V.
Councillor Carson.
Thanks. I just want an indication of how many staff would be transferred, and also is there any plans for rebranding or anything at King George site?
Through you, Chair, there are just over 2.3 full-time equivalent members of staff, some of whom have already expressed an interest in other vacancies that may well be within the department. So there may be the opportunity to rehome them, if you like, within the council model and retain them within leisure and sport in the council before the transfer happens. And in terms of rebranding and relaunching, that will be something that we'll be discussing with Queen of the South and the partnership, the management group. But we'd be keen to ensure, obviously, that the council had appropriate representation and was included in that process.
Councillor Maitland.
Thank you, Chairman. I must admit I do welcome this sort of approach. I think it's very healthy, if, of course, the service level agreement is as robust as we are being promised that it's going to be, because we know in the past that things have gone wrong, and I would be very loath to see that happen again. Can I ask how many years we plan to have this arrangement? And can I also ask whether it forms part of a strategy in the administration?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The initial discussions with the partners have been that we would establish the service level agreement with an annual review. So initially, we'll build that into the process to make sure all parties are happy and comfortable with the way things are progressing. In terms of a strategy for the future, Certainly on a national level, the Community Sports Hub model is something that Sports Scotland are very keen to work with organisations and councils to develop. It fits very nicely with the Community Empowerment Bill and is working with our sports clubs and the voluntary sector to deliver services on our behalf, but with our support and involvement and partnership. So I think certainly it's a model that, providing that we have the suitable control measures in place, as the members have mentioned, I have every confidence that it will work and it's something that will develop and grow.
Good. Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks, Chair. I'm very supportive of the whole principle of this and the way it's taken forward. The only reassurance I'd like, Richard, would be if Billy Houston, for example, was to sell his share of the Queen of the South, that we'd actually have as robust process put into, conditions put in here that this actually transfers with the sale of the football club, or or the transferring power of the football club, because a change of the chairman could totally change the ethos of the community involvement in that club.
Legally, the agreement is with Queen of the South Football Club. Their internal management arrangements do not affect the service level agreement. The service level agreement is between the club as a body and the council as a body, not individuals.
The biggest shareholder in Queen of the South is not on the board. Second biggest shareholder is the Dumfries Common Good Fund. So the actual chairman himself has got very, very minimal holding. There's bigger shareholders than him. So they're quite widespread shareholding.
Just on a tangent to that, is the club that which operates the football club, or is that a holding company? Just in light of recent media speculation about larger clubs in Scotland.
I'm afraid Queen of the South Football Club is one entity. We don't have the problems that the famous Glasgow Rangers have, Mark 1 and Mark 2. Sorry, I've hurt the Vice Chairman's feelings. Any further questions on this item? Members happy? Okay. Move on to the third template, which is the Strategic Housing Service. Any wish to add, Mr. Haswell?
Well, it's fairly straightforward, sir. There is an underspend on this budget. The budget will be transferring in due course to the social care enterprise, and we are suggesting that members, if you're not using the money, what's the point of allocating it and committing it?
Councillor Gilroy?
Yes, I quite understand that, but I have in front of me here the priorities and commitments for the council, and one of them is protect our vulnerable people, and under that heading it says help older or vulnerable people live healthy and independent lives, ensure our older or vulnerable people receive the care and support they need. And if you look at the narrative description of the savings option, it is all about recognising that this is all about helping vulnerable people that continue to live in the things. And I just would like reassurance that we're not drying up a resource to this section of the community who badly need it when they do need it, just because we've underspent recently.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just to confirm that the proposal for the reduction would not minimise the Council's commitment to making sure that the mandatory grants are provided. So the 2006 Act sets out a range of works that, if they're assessed as required through the eligibility and priority framework, must be delivered by the Council and subsequently by the integrated arrangements. This proposal will not undermine or dilute that. What we're proposing is a reduction to basically align the budget to recent historic patterns of spend, and also to look at reducing the discretionary element of the adaptations, which are for the more high tariff extensions that require, for example, additional living space. And what we're saying is that we need to look at alternatives for that, because they're very expensive to deliver, and there are alternatives to just providing big extensions. But the core element for the mandatory adaptations, there's no proposal to reduce the Council's commitment to that.
Yeah, Chair. Again, it's what's being recognised as an underspend against the 1.5 million of the 2.1 where 1.5 has been given in the budget template to aids and adaptations, and John has touched on it on where there is exceptional circumstances. Personally, I don't see these as exceptional circumstances in many cases, and I would hope running alongside this, notwithstanding that on the budget there is a £200,000 underspend, but we're proposing to take out £300,000, that running alongside these need for extensions and whether it's regarded as exceptional cases, that there are timelines put alongside this. Because it's one thing, requires an adaptation, and then social housing is considered alongside this, and yet the person could be waiting an inordinate time to be rehoused in suitable accommodation. So running alongside this, I would hope we get an assurance that if that is the consideration in terms of alternative housing, then there are timelines put against this, and then the exceptional circumstances become that we need to provide, and then we keep a watchful brief, a close eye, if you like, on the budget, because there's one thing, what we would regard as an exceptional circumstances where someone does need it and needs it within a reasonable time, and that does come into the health, safety and well-being of the individual. And I would hope, I would seek an assurance that we are not compromising the health and safety and well-being of individuals in this. So there are two parts, timeline and then the assurance that the health and safety and well-being is not being compromised.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. What we'd propose to do is, if we do have cases where they need alternative suitable accommodation, and those applicants would be considered through the Common Housing Register process, they would automatically go into the Strategic Needs Group, which is a multi-agency group looking at particular complex cases like this. The policy requires that each and every strategic needs case is reviewed on a 3-month cycle. So they would not be left for an indeterminate period waiting for suitable rehousing. They would be actively managed through the Strategic Needs Panel and reviewed every 3 months. So I can certainly give that assurance to the members.
Thank you, Chairman. I see on the section talking about details of staff implications and how these will be managed. I'm curious as to why it's okay for the council to remove 20%, suggest that we remove 20% of this scheme of assistance and expect that the management fee of Lawburn should be downed, but we don't extrapolate that into our own staffing. Does that seem reasonable? I mean, if one took that to extremes, and we did away with any sort of scheme of assistance, we would simply be leaving our own staff in place. There must be a management resource applied to monitoring this particular scheme of assistance. It's at the margin, but if you go on and don't take out staffing, which you don't need now, because you've reduced the amount of, in this case, the scheme of assistance, you would never make any changes in staffing.
Thanks, Chair. I think there's possibly two elements to a response to that. First of all, in terms of Lawburn as an organisation, we are in discussion with them through the Care Repair Steering Group, and we have monthly meetings with Lawburn's Director of Housing to review the arrangements, and the next meeting is this Thursday. So we'll make sure that they are geared up for any potential reduction in the overall costs and they can resource themselves properly. In terms of any impact internally on the council, it really impacts on my post and the post of service manager, because I chair the Care and Repair Steering Group, and we monitor that budget. I think the answer to that would be that that's then picked up through any corporate service review in terms of reshaping the council and to look at the resources needed across the services. So it will filter through, although not directly attached to this template.
Thanks, Chair. I'm a wee bit concerned here because our partners in there's, I think, one line in here about integrated health and adult care, adult social care, and this is a mandatory function as part of the statutory instrument. This isn't going to help us meet our 2020 vision, our partners in the NHS, on keeping people in their own home as long as possible without moving them. In fact, all the good practice John's shared with me in the past is actually to keep them where they are and revolve the services around them, not move them from where they are to another place. So this is actually, I would suggest, a negative thing because we don't know the full impact yet of the strategic plan that's still to be drawn up between us and the local, us and the NHS. So until that's done, I think this is actually a dangerous thing to actually be doing here because you don't know if you've got an underspend next year. You could actually be having, you might actually be coming back looking for more money to keep people in their own homes rather than taking them into hospital.
Thanks, Chair. Again, there's probably a number of different strands to answer that. First of all, in terms of our involvement with the integration plan, I've now been invited to join the strategic planning group. So the kind of housing perspective on the joint strategic planning process for integration will reflect the wider housing issues as well. And this is obviously a key element in those discussions. The logic for making equipment and adaptations a mandatory function to transfer to the integrated model at a national level was to try and maximise the resources across all agencies. So there's budgets within the NHS that support people living independently at home. The NHS have got their own, for example, their own occupational therapy service. The council have got an occupational therapy service. And in addition to that, we fund care and repair. There's also discussions about how that impacts across the RSL-funded adaptations. So it's basically trying to look at all the different pots of money that support this concept of independent living and make better use of the collective budget. So it shouldn't be seen in isolation as, well, if we reduce this budget, the effect will be a reduction in service. It's about bringing the pots of money together and making it work better. And if the integration works, then that should be the best outcome.
Thanks very much for the answer, John. I'm pleased to hear that you're actually actively involved eventually in a process that I said you should have been involved in 2.5 years ago. But let's no go there. So I'm kind of reassured what you're saying, but I'm still a bit worried here that we've not the rationale, and maybe if that had been explained a bit better, but appreciate the box is only so big. Yeah, okay, but thanks, points made.
Strategic resource planning teams, we do have a small spelling mistake in the second line down. We pay officers to be principal officers, we don't pay them to have principals. So can we just make sure we have principals spelled correct? Well, what I'm saying is they're paid to be principal officers, not paid to be officers with principals. They may have as many principals as they want, they don't get paid for it.
Nothing to add, sir. It's a rationalisation of middle management to senior management. It's a management rationalisation issue.
Any further questions? Councillor Maitland?
Yes, please. Could we have the names of the posts, please?
I'm quite sure Richard will give you the post titles.
That's right. So I'm after.
Thank you, Chair. This is a test. We've got the 3 service managers and 3 principal officers within the strategic team. One element is the resource planning role, the second element is the improvement and engagement role, and the third element is the strategic planning role. So you've got a principal officer and a service manager in each of those 3 disciplines.
Any further questions? No? Move on to the next template. Which is the Community and Customer Service Area Framework. Mr. Haswell.
Again, Chairman, happy to answer questions. It is a reduction in the area committee budget for grants, but the budget proposal is that that will be backfilled by an available resource which is in council's budget.
Any questions on this one? No, happy to accept. Move on to the next template, which is leisure facilities, ABB. Mr. Haswell.
This is the one that members have been looking at in various guises over a period of time. It is not what we would describe or have described in the past as an alio. It is a way of the council looking to achieve non-domestic rate savings, maintaining the control of the staff and basic running of the three big facilities which the council have. I think we'd need to answer any questions. Right, sure Richard can go into any detail that members have, but it is a form of producing an organisation which would be able to achieve charitable status and charitable benefits in relation to these three major facilities. There is an idea that the facilities will move towards being more cost effective, towards being more commercial, shall we say, without increasing fees to a greater extent than is absolutely necessary. We looked at the possibility of doing it across the entire process, but there's just no other savings to be made other than on the big three. We think the big three, as we call them, would be a way of taking the matter forward.
Any questions? Oh, Councillor Maitland.
Have we thought, looking at details from the calculations of savings and income generation, is there any particular reason why we don't use another body, a kind of ready-made body, as opposed to a charitable trust setting up a charitable company, a SKIO? Is there any logic to that? I don't know.
I don't think we can. We've had fairly detailed conversations with Oscar, the regulator, to make sure that we are able to achieve this. And this is the line that Oscar has taken. This seems to be the line at which the council would appear to be able to achieve what they're setting out to achieve. I'm not sure if any other model would achieve that. Certainly Oscar didn't come up with any ideas of an alternative model.
Okay, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a little question for clarification on the option that staff could, in theory, be transferred to the new organisation or remain council employees but be seconded to the CC. And I was just wondering what would be the differences in impact of each choice for the employee?
If the employee TUPE transfers, they move and are employed by a totally different body. The idea that we have here is that the employees will remain employees of Dumfries and Galloway Council on Dumfries and Galloway Council terms and conditions. Therefore, we're not adversely affecting the employees in the longer term, but that they would be seconded to work for this other body. TUPE transfer may mean that 5 years down the line, these people's terms and conditions are radically altered from what they are currently. We're trying to give the employees the assurance that their terms and conditions of employment will remain the same. Plus the fact they will continue to be council employees.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, move on. Wait. Sorry.
Thanks, Chair. There's no savings indicated for this incoming financial year, and there's 325,000 for the second year, or for the subsequent year. Does that mean it would only be partially implemented in 2016-17 and not implemented at all in 15-16? Or is there a chance that some of it could be implemented in 15-16 and there could be a wee bonus issue there, if you like?
We've looked at it on the basis that it's going to take us a year to set this organisation up, sir. In terms of there will be costs as well in setting the organisation up, and that's the reduction in the following financial year. We've been very realistic about the savings that we think can be achieved here. If we do it quicker, obviously you're quite right, there will be savings achieved earlier, but we had to give a best estimate as to the amount of time we thought this would take.
Come back, Chair. There's a couple of things, fairly large buildings which are not included in this. One's the Merrick Centre in Newton Stewart, and one would be Annan Swimming Pool. Is there any particular reason why they were left out?
There is, Chair, because they're on school sites, and therefore the rules and regs in relation to national non-domestic rate relief differs greatly in terms of the benefits of taking this approach.
Question? Just very thoughtful. Move on. And we'll now on to the capital investment strategy, and the first item there is the Untitled Chapter. Mr. Haswell.
Happy to answer questions, Chairman.
Any queries? No. Move on to the next one, which is the Regional Archive and Local Studies Centre.
Chairman, this one was right through the committee recently. This proposal is the one that members agreed to take forward. You'll see that we've made the capital bid, and we're very hopeful it will be included in the budget.
Any questions? Members? So are members happy that we accept the recommendation at item 2, scrutinise the details, and it's in line with our agreed process and timetable. Councillor Gilroy.
Just a sort of question to ask, because I notice in your budget consultation thing on page 17 under community learning and development that there was meant to be it was going to be a subject of a review, and that was agreed in August, and it was meant to be at this committee in January, which would be today, and it's a saving for next year of 160,000, which is also in your budget efficiency savings on page 5. And I just wonder, if we haven't had the review, how can we take the saving?
The review is ongoing. The review will identify the saving. Members have already agreed to the minimum saving. They'd be looking for that review. You'll recall that we were undertaking the review. The intention had been that we would take things forward to this committee meeting. The situation has arisen where the council received a report in December time about a wider review of the council structure, etc., and we wanted to just take a pause, take a deep breath, and see if the two dovetailed. I'm pleased to be able to tell you that they do dovetail, and we will be coming back to the next meeting with a report. But members already agreed the scope, and the saving has been built into the budget.
So that doesn't affect this budget here today? No.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you all very much for attending, and we'll see you next month at the normal meeting. Thank you.